In this video, I pitched the top-of-the-range Garmin Edge 1040 against the computer it replaced at the top, the Edge 1030 Plus. Head-to-head, tete-a-tete, mange à two. In return for the next few minutes of your valuable life juice, you will discover a random but illuminating smattering of similarities, assorted differences, and the all-important synapse tickler, which should you buy? All judged through the mental lens of a somewhat flaccid 44-year-old mammal. You're welcome. So what are we talking about? The Edge 1040 and 1030 Plus are both sophisticated bike GPS devices with large colour touchscreen displays. Both have all the ride tracking, training and navigation features you could ever need, alongside a host of bells, whistles and klaxon horns that Garmin has crammed in to justify the wallet-wobbling price tags. The 1040 was launched in June 2022 and purchased proudly at the top of the Garmin range. The Edge 1030 Plus, released in June 2020, was the prior occupant of the big dog spot. Looking at the wider bike computerverse, the 1040 and 1030 Plus float like a Chinese weather balloon at the very top. And with our collective loins a-glowing, let's canter through the similarities between the Edge 1040 and the 1030 Plus. Ultimately, the 1040 and the 1030 Plus have the same core functionality. They both track your rides, recording and presenting on the display, data from the device or from the sensors secreted about your bike and your person. Both devices support all the same sensors: heart rate monitor, power meters and other connections, indoor trainers, electronic gears, your clever fridge. Size. The 1040 and 1030 Plus are pretty much the same size. The 1040 is a soupçon longer. Either way, both are at the top end of the bike GPS heft spectrum. I know some consider this size of device a bit much for a bike GPS, but relative to even a mid-sized smartphone, to my mind, they're still quite trim. Display. There's little that separates the 1040 and 1030 Plus in terms of screen. Even the solar generating bit on the 1040, we'll come on to that, sits around the display rather than in it, behind it, betwixt it. To be honest, both are a bit less bright and a bit less contrasty, technical term, than some of their sexy screen competitors. But said eye ticklers have their own compromises, whether that's shorter battery life or a lack of touchscreen. So it's horses for GPX routes. Talking of which, navigation. Navigation as a software feature on top-end Garmin's has been stable for a while. Some of the data may change. Recent Garmin's have more bike-tailored points of interest, but the fundamental functionality tends to remain the same. And in the case of the 1040 and the 1030 Plus, there is no material difference. I'll come onto the GPS hardware changes in a little bickle. The 1030 Plus has always been fast in terms of moving around the map screen and calculating routes. Certainly fast enough for me as a casual user. The 1040, as you might expect, continues this trend. Both devices tick the box as great for navigation and are probably top of the list if you expect to be doing a lot of bike packing or cycling in unfamiliar locations. So far so good then, and so similar, but you came here for a comparison, which means teasing apart the differences. So let's do that. Differences between the Edge 1040 and 1030 Plus. I'll attempt to order these by importance, but remember kids, like the mileage, your importance may vary. Number 1, the 1040 has a machined metal mount cleat type thing. User interface. The user interface on the 1040 is fan-dabby-dozy. The 1030 Plus is just okay. The new style home screen hosts widgets that take you straight to core functionality. And overall, the snaz factor on most features and screens has been increased. The 1040 generally uses larger fonts than the 1030 Plus for the same box in the data grid, so there's less redundant empty space. It's not quite wahoo big font sizes, but it's a step in the right direction. Talking of smartphones, we were sort of the UI thing. You can now use yours to change all the 1040's settings, ride profiles and data screens from the Garmin Connect app rather than having to do it all on the device. So the UI on the 1040 is a significant upgrade. It's definitely quicker and more intuitive. It makes better use of the touchscreen. But any competent person with a bit of patience, a bucket into which you, yes you, definitely plop, will get the hang of where stuff is on the 1030 Plus. For all its quirks and muchos menus, the older GPS is still, for me, a very usable device. Climb Pro. If you've seen many of my videos, you'll know I'm a big fan of these newfangled climbing specific bike computer screens. The frailty of my mental resolve is only matched by the fragility of my legs. I must know where I am on a climb and whether I can make it to the top. Now, Garmin Edges have had Climb Pro for some time. I very like it's on the 1030 Plus, but the 1040 version is better. Why? Because the Edge 1040 doesn't need you to follow a preloaded route in order for it to kick in. The 1040 will spot climbs in free ride mode, as I like to call my life, as well as identify them on the map with little icons. The 1040's Climb Pro display also has more detailed elevation charts with a wider range of gradient mapped colours. Even that little hillock on my local loop has a frisson of Col du Galibier about it. So for me, Climb Pro on the 1040 is a worthwhile improvement. Training. The 1040 has a smattering of new features focused on performance. Yours, not the bike computer. Power guide, cycling ability, course demands, and real-time stamina. There's more detail in the blog post accompanying this video, and the link is in the description. But we haven't seen a firmware update that bestows them on the 1030 Plus, even in beta. So we can assume they will remain 1040 specific, and therefore a difference until the end of time. The materiality of each of these features in driving your 1040 versus 1030 Plus decision will depend on whether you foresee yourself using them, obviously. If you don't own a power meter, and you don't plan to, then the presence of the power guide feature is somewhat academic. But in the round, the new additions on the 1040 do add quite a bit of value to the more performance-focused rider, which right now I'm not, particularly if you're looking for real-time insights during a hard event or, dare I suggest it, race. GPS tracking. The 1040 uses multi-band dual frequency GNSS, which looks frankly like a jumble of random words and acronyms. But let me velosplain. It means the 1040 has better GPS tracking accuracy versus the older device. I've not personally had any issues with the 1030 Plus lacking precision. It sounds like a bigger benefit to those navigating high-rise urban jungles rather than the agricultural cowmuck jungles I encounter in rural Derbyshire. I'm not sure that this, for me, is an obvious enough improvement to plump for the 1040 over the 1030 Plus, certainly compared to some of the other improvements we've gone through. Solar. Okay, sure, this is only a difference if you buy the solar version of the 1040. If you don't, then, well, this is awkward. You probably know already that the newer Garmin's, including the 1040, come with a solar glass option. It recharges slightly as you ride along, providing you ride along in conditions that are not the pissing English rain. The 1030 Plus does not have a solar option, so that's a clear difference. Still, on the subject of protons, electrons and Ford Cortinas, USB charging. With the launch of the 1040, Garmin's bike computers finally entered the space age, at least in terms of charging aperture. The 1040 revels in possession of a USB-C charging port. The 1030 Plus doesn't. It still has the retro micro USB port. Now, it's probably not a major issue unless you've transitioned all of your devices to USB-C and you maintain some sort of strict one charging cable rule in your manner. That said, USB-C charging is quicker, so perhaps a consideration if you regularly find yourself with a flat bike computer battery just prior to a ride. Talking of which, battery life. The 1040 has a longer one, battery life. But sheeple, I ask, do we need more battery life? Oh, okay, we do. Fine. So Garmin has sorted you out then. The non-solar version of the 1040 purports to give 35 hours of battery life under what they describe as a demanding use case. following a route, heating the kettle, doing a spot of TIG welding. I still say we're at the point for both the 1040 and the 1030 Plus where battery life is excellent. Both will handle a number of longer rides and many shorter ones. It shouldn't form a major factor in deciding between the two, but one that will is cost. The 1040 obviously costs more than the 1030 Plus. It's newer, it's objectively better. Anything I say now will rapidly go out of date, so check the prices yourself. I've left some links in the description. There are and will continue to be deals to be had on the 1030 Plus as befits its older status, so it's perhaps worth seeking it out during the well-known sales periods. And with that, it's time for the threepenny bit dollar question. Should you buy the Edge 1040 or the 1030 Plus? I have a sneaking suspicion that, whatever I say, a large proportion of you will go for the 1040. Both cost a fair chunk of change, but if you're spending big, you want the newer device with the brand spanking UI and a rear mounting cleat that you can buff to a dazzling silver. The 1040 will stay current for longer and continue to be supported by firmware updates and feature upgrades for years to come. The next gen V Ultra GTI Climb Pro on the 1040 is a bit of a hero feature, which may or may not be the term. I've been using the 1040 alongside the new 840 for some time now, and I prefer the larger device, which means for me, the 1040 is Garmin's best ever bike computer. Of course, there will be a good number of you that want to balance function with value. Perhaps you've bought older generation bike computers in the past, in which case the Edge 1030 Plus should appeal. It's hardly out of date. It's the better value way to get a large screen device with a very good battery life, top-notch training and safety features, and super quick and usable navigation. There's nothing frustrating about the 1030 Plus that the 1040 solves. There's nothing really frustrating about the 1030 Plus at all. So the 1030 Plus remains a very sophisticated and highly usable bike computer. And with that high quality fence sitting complete, I'm away. If you liked this video, please do give it a like. I've been M to the T. Please do try the fish. Let's do it quickly, Monty.